Well, a high-stakes maritime crisis off the coast of Somalia has sent shockwaves from New Delhi to Ankara. The Cameroon-flagged cargo vessel MV LUTUF was intercepted and seized by 8 heavily armed pirates operating from high-speed skiffs off Puntland's coast. On board, 10 crew members, a volatile cargo of military-grade weapons, and a quiet story about the global workforce keeping world trade alive. Hello and welcome to NewsX Deepdive. My name is Vineet Malhotra. The hijacking unfolded on the 17th of August at approximately 11:36 UTC. The 76-meter MV LUTUF was navigating just 3.5 to 4 nautical miles off the Maraya in Puntland's district when two motorized skiffs carrying 8 pirates armed with AK-47 assault rifles approached rapidly. Recognizing the threat, the 10-person crew immediately executed standard anti-piracy protocol and retreated inside the vessel's citadel, which is a fortified steel reinforced safe room. However, the hijackers breached the citadel doors, forced the crew out at gunpoint, and brought them up to the bridge to take command of the helm. Shortly after, the ship's automatic identification system transmitter went silent and the vessel was forced south toward the Nugal coast and Garmal in Dangoroyo district. Why was a 31-year-old small general cargo vessel flying a Cameroon flag of convenience targeted in these dangerous waters? Well, the answer lies in its manifest. The MV LUTUF departed Tekirdağ, Turkey, carrying military communications gear, satellite arrays and Turkish weaponry. While its official AIS destination was listed as Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, the actual delivery was bound for Mogadishu, specifically Turksum, Turkey's largest overseas military training facility, which trains the Somali National Army units. Transporting defense equipment along the East African coast requires heightened vigilance, making a slow, low freeboard vessel carrying sensitive gear a prime strategic target. The hijacking was a calculated act of opportunistic maritime piracy enabled by 4 vulnerability factors. Number 1, low freeboard and small size. At just 76 meters long and 498 gross tonnage, the MV LUTUF sat low in the water and moved slowly, making it easy for skiffs to board. Number 2, inshore routing. The ship was navigating barely 3.5 to 4 nautical miles from the Puntland coast, well within operational reach of coastal pirate cells. Number 3, established pirate motherships. Intelligence reports indicate the hijackers operated from the previously captured vessel MV Sword, using it as a long-range staging platform. Number 4, flag of convenience. Cameroon-flagged vessels often operate with leaner safety margins and less private security backing than major international fleets. The presence of 6 Indian nationals among the 10-person crew alongside 1 Turkish citizen, 1 Georgian and 2 Serbian security guards raised immediate alarm in New Delhi. But why were Indians on a Cameroon-flagged vessel carrying Turkish defense cargo? Well, India is the world's second largest supplier of merchant mariners after the Philippines, contributing over 311,000 active seafarers to global shipping according to the 2026 BIMCO ICS Workforce Report. Indian officers and ratings engineer and navigate merchants vessels across every flag state, from Panama and Liberia to flags of convenience like Cameroon, when international commercial ships transit high-risk corridors like the Gulf of Aden, the Red Sea or the Strait of Hormuz. Indian seafarers disproportionately bear the risk. Following the hijacking, 2 Turkish-owned commercial vessels altered course to approach the area, while Turkish surveillance drones and helicopters established overhead tracking. The situation took a complex turn near the shore when a small local craft pulled alongside the hijacked ship to deliver khat, a local stimulant, shortly after the supply boat returned towards the beach at Garmal. A targeted Turkish drone strike neutralized 4 pirates on the beach and wounded 2 others. This 5th hijacking since April 2026 has forced international and regional navies to establish enhanced multinational task force patrols around the Horn of Africa to suppress resurgent pirate networks using hijacked motherships like the MV Sword. Latest updates shared by India's Ministry of Shipping confirm that all Indian crew members aboard the hijacked vessel are safe as diplomatic coordination between India, Turkey and Somali authorities continues. The hijacking of the MV LUTUF underscores how maritime security, global seafarers and defense supply and chains remain deeply interconnected in high-risk international waters. Commodore Anil J. Singh, former Indian Navy officer, joins us on the program. Sir, appreciate you being here with us. Well, sir, what would you attribute, this daring attempt to take over this vessel, and what are the changes that even maritime security needs to undergo to make sure that piracy is tackled more efficiently?
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me on your show. Well, this is indeed an unfortunate occurrence that has happened. This is not the only ship. 2 ships have been hijacked, and I think there are about 20 Indian crew members who are presently in the hands of the Somalian pirates. But this is not a new problem. Somalian piracy also does rear its head occasionally. You would recall between 2008 and 2013, it would become a global menace. And despite the fact that these young pirates are just, young lads carrying Kalashnikovs, coming in skiffs and boarding these ships and sailing them into their own custodial waters, it took 20 navies, more than 20 navies, more than 5 years to quell this menace. Because the reasons for this are many. One, of course, is, in poorly governed states where governance is a challenge, people are poor, economic deprivation, no jobs, criminal syndicates find that a very ripe area for recruiting people. So these young lads have no jobs, they have nothing to do. With a lot of IUU fishing happening, the fish stocks have depleted. These are basically fishermen who live on the coast. So it's very attractive for a young 20-year-old lad to have a Kalashnikov and a Toyota SUV. So that's how they get these boys. But if you really want to quell piracy, it's not so much these pirates, because they can keep getting more and more of these boys. You can keep arresting them and more boys will join. It's more about attacking the pirate financing. That means attacking the crime syndicates which are financing these. These are not small syndicates. They've got accounts in all over the world. So that is one way in which piracy was tackled then and can be tackled now. So for about a decade, there was not too much of piracy happening. We had more or less controlled it. It again reared its ugly head when the Houthis started attacking shipping in the Red Sea after the Israel-Hamas standoff began in November 23. And if you recollect, a lot of piracy started happening in the Bab el-Mandeb and the Gulf of Aden. And that is where India stepped in. We had 12 ships at one stage just controlling piracy. And once again, with both kinetic and non-kinetic action, we had more or less controlled it. And again, piracy had sort of had subsided. But now these few incidents have happened. I understand these are not the only 2 ships there. They've got almost 6 ships presently in their custody. So once again, it will require a lot of effort. Other navies will have to also probably pitch in whose ships are affected. At least in the regional navies will have to pitch in if this menace has to be curbed. Now, at the time when piracy came up between 2008 and 2013, besides the shipping or besides naval ships which were doing whatever they did, a lot of anti-piracy information sharing networks were established. The EU established Primario. EU had a force there called Atalanta. There were information sharing mechanisms operating on Madagascar. There was RECAP in Singapore. So a lot of anti-piracy mechanisms came up where information sharing led to a lot of pirates being apprehended even in those high-risk waters. Now those organizations are still functioning because piracy has never really gone away. Now they're looking at a larger information sharing architecture for security of the Indian Ocean and its sea lines of communication. So obviously these incidents are happening now. As you mentioned, this incident happened barely 4 miles from the coast. There was very little an outside ship could have come and done over there. Actually, piracy, jurisdiction of foreign ships does not extend to coastal waters, territorial waters. But in the case of Somalian piracy, way back when it happened between 2008 and 2013, the first time an exception was made where the UN Security Council passed a resolution saying that foreign naval warships can enter territorial waters of Somalia to apprehend pirates. So that's one part of it. As far as India is concerned, as you mentioned, 1 in every 5 seafarers is Indian. So it's inevitable that any ship sailing anywhere in the world is likely to have some Indians on board. Some may have less, some may have more. Now we produce a lot of seafarers. When jobs are scarce and not so readily available with the big lines and the big shipping companies, it is these small companies which pick up a lot of our seafarers. So it's not unusual that Indian seafarers were on board a ship even if it was carrying Turkish weapons. But it's unfortunate that they've been apprehended or they've been they're in the pirates' custody. But I'm sure the government of India will make an effort to safely have them repatriated back to India. That's the second part. The third part is the shipping ministry. You know, if you remember when the Straits of Hormuz got blockaded, the shipping ministry had issued an advisory saying that Indian seafarers should not be sent into the Straits of Hormuz. Now that's all very well to say, but the bottom line is it's a job like any other job for a seafarer. So if a seafarer were to be told by a shipping company that you are not supposed to go to the Straits of Hormuz, so I don't need you anymore. So for him, it's a question of his livelihood. So it's easy to pass an advisory, particularly for sailors who are sailing on flags of convenience, ships, flying flags of convenience, because there is a bit of ambiguity in their nationality of these ships, which fly flags of convenience. And obviously, again, like you mentioned, their regulation is weaker. They're smaller ships, they're smaller companies. They don't have the same kind of, they don't put in the same kind of effort or due diligence towards safety, etc. of their crews. So they become more vulnerable for this kind of thing. In this case, there might also be the Turkish support to Somalia, because like you mentioned, there's a Turkish base, Turkish support in Mogadishu where the ship was going with arms. So that's the third angle, where forces inimical to the Turkish support to Somalia could be also in the background, engineering something like this. So there are a combination of factors, but it's unfortunate that Indian crewmen are there, and we hope that they'll be repatriated safely by the Indian government of India's efforts to do so. Vineet.
All right, sir. Appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much for that clarity and that perspective, sir. We'll take a short break now. Be right back.